Okay, welcome, welcome. Hello, ladies. This is Taylor Thompson coming to you live here in the She Network. I'm so excited to have you ladies here. So I have a special guest I cannot wait to introduce you to. She is going to fill you with so much wisdom here and how to build your business with human connection and relationships, soul to soul. We'll get into this in just a minute. So as you're coming on, let us know you're here. We want to say hi. We want to say welcome. We want to say where you're coming in from. So as we dive in here, I want you to make sure that you have your notepads. I want you to be able to take a few notes here. We're going to hear from my lovely, amazing guest, Miss Jill Wright. Jill, how are you today?
I'm great, Taylor. Thanks. I'm so happy to be here. And also, I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you for all the great work you do to support women in business, because it's just, you make such a difference in the lives of this community. And so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking out time from your business to be here and share with the ladies as we're as your journey in business, because it's pioneers like you that really start paving the way and lighting the path for other women walking behind you. So I want you to dive into your story here, because ladies, we're going to be talking about her book, her contribution to a book, and how Forbes has written about her, the contribution that she's made for women entrepreneurs across the globe. So tell your story. Like, how did you become an entrepreneur? How did you get to this place?
Well, I was the first person. I had a car accident in 1987. And then when I went back to work, I started shining shoes with a friend of mine. And I thought, this is crazy. But it really made an impact. You were really able to connect with people. So
let's talk about that for just a minute. Shining shoes, most people, how did you get into that? Because typically that's a man's business, right?
It is definitely a man's business.
Because men are the ones that like to have their boots and their shoes. And women don't typically do that. So how did you connect with that? What made you have that desire to do a business that's men inundated?
Well, like I said, my friend started doing it, and she said, you should come back to work with me before you go back to work. And she said, because you like professional executive level people, and you like learning from people, and this would be really fun. And you take great care of people. They tell you how wonderful they are, and then they pay you. And I was like, sounds interesting.
So you didn't have a background or an education in any kind of business for yourself. That was just something like you needed a job, you needed to have income, and this was an opportunity that was set before you.
Yeah, absolutely. I had graduated high school early, and I had went to DU for several years. And so I did have experience in management and marketing, but I wasn't back to my regular job yet because of my car accident. So she said, come and work with me for a while. And I thought, okay, I was 20, you were 40. I thought, you must be having your midlife crisis. Is that what happens with people?
Yeah.
So I did, and it was really a lot of fun. It was very artistic. So there's a lot that goes into it. In fact, now I do a workshops with CEOs where I bring them into the airport and they work with me for a day, and we have experiences, customer service experiences, where they have to, it's kind of like Undercover Boss, where they have to be vulnerable and, take their title aside and just connect with the people next to them and the people around them, just based on the piece of human connection.
So we're talking about this business as you're joining in. We're talking to Jill Wright here and how she started this business, Soul to Soul, SOLE to SOUL, and we're talking about a shoe shining business that going on to own, like you own all of these different shoe shining businesses in various airports. As a woman, you wouldn't think a woman entrepreneur being in that space. But what really sucked you in? What was that thing that sucked you in to say, okay, this is my gift, this is my calling? What was it about this business that drew you in?
Well, I've always had a passion for people. And what I realized is that once I started serving people, the more you serve, the more they serve you. The more you build relationship, the more you build human connection. When you can create a situation for someone where they feel so safe that they put their title aside and they can just interact with you just soul to soul, just as a human being, and really share the things that maybe they can't talk about with their other executive team or their family. So providing that space for them to really connect and build relationship has been invaluable in business. And so now I call it, our business is called Executive Shine, and it's all about the love. And
I love that. Executive Shine. I love that.
So that's what it's about.
And so just so, and okay, so I don't know who's saying this. Okay, you got to give StreamYard soul with soul. So it's actually SOLE. So like the sole of your foot, right, to your soul, SOUL. And such a clever name for this business, and a way to be able to connect with people, because first of all, it's a woman in a man's space. And I can see how easily you could be able to communicate, especially to these high-level execs, these men, really communicating how you bring culture into their environment. So talk about that aspect of how you've been able to not only build your own business around this culture, but how you've been able to serve other companies in building their culture and through connection.
Well, one of the first things, and one of the reasons I'm really connected with you, and I appreciate you so much, is how you talk about the power of belief.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the principles that I teach, is that when you believe in someone,
Yes.
and you give them responsibility at the edge of their capacity,
yes,
then that's when they grow.
yeah,
And when you can then appreciate them and cultivate
yes,
that relationship with your people,
yes.
how many times, I mean, that's the reason your businesses have been successful, is you've been the person that believed in your team.
Yes.
And they've gotten that for maybe the first time.
Yes.
So when you're looking at culture and how you build power teams that stay together, because turnover is such a big situation in corporate America right now. And the biggest thing is that people want to be seen.
Yes.
They want to be honored and appreciated
Yes.
for their unique skill set.
Yes, it's and I thank you so much for saying that, because this all ties in together, and really the reason why I created this community, because of sharing her excellence, because belief determines behavior. And whenever you can see a vision and cast a vision before someone, before they believe for them, until they can have their own belief, it's like you're standing in the gap for them. You're standing in the gap until they can catch the vision for themselves, for their future, for where they are. I'm currently right now, as most of you can see, I'm not in my normal space. I'm actually at a real live event. Can you believe it? I miss live people in a live event. I'm in a live event, and we're literally talking about this very thing, about creating belief, and how people see themselves, and they have to see themselves in that place before they can act upon. And sometimes we are that facilitator to get them between the bridge between here and there.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I love this. So talk about this. I mean, so you've been doing this for how long now? Like
33 years.
33 years. Starting out, probably never anticipate, this was probably just going to be a part-time gig thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love this because in through this part-time thing, and sometimes, ladies, I mean, you I always believe there's no coincidence, right? There's no coincidence whenever you are open to let God direct your steps, and how this became it became your calling. You walked in your excellence, and I mean, to be in a book, and now you told me that you're in Forbes, like Forbes recognized you. Talk about that.
Well, Forbes, my vision of leadership is as if I'm the conductor, and all the people on my team, they're different instruments. They have a different job, they have a different sound, there's a different part of the symphony that they play. Yes. So my job as a leader is to develop my people so that they can play to the best of their ability. And if I can hear the music, and just like you said, like transfer that into them, and they can feel like they're a vital part of something bigger than they are.
Yes.
Then they feel that satisfaction and build that confidence and start to really show the best of who they are. And then they bring that to everything that they do.
This is such a powerful thing because you talk about culture, and I use it. I use like this group right here. I talk about whenever, whether it's an executive team or whether it's your networking team or whether it's a community like these women that we have here. I call it the incubator, right? And it allows them to grow and flourish in that space, and you give them this really comfortable space to figure out what their strengths are, what their passions are, what they were designed to do to fulfill. What instrument is it? Because we all have a role, and it's all different, and it's all unique. That's the thing, because we're so busy. Do you find that so many people, they forsake their own gift because they're trying to be, they're a violin whenever they're trying to be a drum? I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. And something interesting, the part of this is driven by when I was 15 years old, my father told me, I have to choose between you and your stepmother, and I choose her, and you're never going to be successful without me. And at the time, that was a really devastating thing, but it was such a driving force for me to be able to connect with people, because I needed that connection. And that in turn has turned out to be the gift that I'm really giving the world, is teaching them the power of connecting with another human being. Because, like when you and I have a conversation, I see things in the things that you say that show me things about myself.
Yes.
And so when we are together, we mirror those things for each other, and we allow each other to see parts of ourselves that we might not be able to see just when we're by ourselves.
So this business of yours, what it's allowed you to do, so it's not only like you own all the ones in the Denver airport, but don't you own like various ones throughout different airport locations?
Yeah, I started in the Washington, D.C. airport, and then I also have the Charlotte airport.
Okay.
So that's it. And it's really interesting, too, the differences in culture in different parts, all in different parts of the country. But the same thing is true, is that when people are traveling, they can feel that energy. When I'm teaching my people, we can walk along different businesses in the mall or different businesses in the airport, and you can feel the energy of those businesses. So I would tell the women in your organization that when people connect with you, they can feel your energy.
Yeah.
They can feel your heart. They can feel your soul. They can feel if you care about them and you're passionate about helping them. And that's why they connect with you. No matter what you're doing, whether you're selling a skincare or whether you're doing corporate retreats, They connect with you as a human being because they want to be seen and honored,
This
for who
is
they are.
this is so good because it really ties into. I was actually having this conversation with my daughters, right? Because I think our society, and I think this is to your point, really where people get lost, and especially we live in a world of text messaging, and so most people don't realize that in communication only 7% of what you're trying to be communicated comes through whenever in a written format. 7%. 7%. And you look at how people are communicating now more than ever, and this ties in exactly what you're saying. Because people can take those words in a text message and read their perception can go this way or that way, right? If you're not connected to them, if you're just communicating versus connecting to them, it's just words, right?
Absolutely.
So whenever you add the inflection, so let's talk about this. You have people on your team, that they may be struggling, that they may be going through life circumstances. They need to hear your voice, not a text message.
They do.
So that increases 38%. 38% whenever you have the voice and the inflections that go with the voice. Where the biggest part of the communication comes in the physiology whenever they see you. So let's just say this connection, you add a video with a voice, and you can't talk to them on the phone. You add a video with a voice. This is where the whole next level comes into. So this piece right here is I think is such a critical thing that in this social media, thing. I mean, as great as it is, I think we've really disconnected more than we've actually connected. Would you agree with that? Because you have a face-to-face business. You have to do your business. You have to be face-to-face. So you get all of those elements that I just described.
Absolutely.
So give the ladies like realistic things that they could do, maybe to translate if they're not a face-to-face. What could they do to enhance that inside of their teams or in their business? Can you share some tips for them?
Well, I I agree with you what you said about having real verbal communication. And hey, let's jump on a Zoom. I want to see your eyes.
Yes.
I want to feel you. Do you need me? What is it? You want to look in people's eyes, and you want to really connect, and you want to really listen beyond what the fluff of what they're saying. Yes. You want to listen to what's really going on in their heart, and create space for them to feel safe to share those kinds of things with you, because that's really where you build relationship.
I love this because, so many times I think, we want to be women of influence, and we want to be, an influencer, in this world, in this business of technology. And we forget that we could have an influence just one person at a time, and a huge impact being an influencer of one. And I love this message. I love the soul to soul aspect of this because, this human connection is so relevant now more than ever, especially everybody's walked through this last year. Let's talk about your book. Let's go there. Let's talk about your book a little bit and share like how this came about and maybe how the ladies could get access to this.
Absolutely. When my good friend asked me to help in this book, because she said, this is with 25 other leading doctors. So this is about living well. This is about living your best life. So longevity is not just length of life, but it's quality of life.
Mm, that's good.
So
That's
my
good.
chapter is about human connection, and the biggest thing regarding health with human connection is that when you are connected as you go through life,
Yeah.
your lifespan is increased up to 50% just based on the quality of your connections.
This is such a relevant conversation even right now, Jill. I mean, I would love to know if people, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of study as to what's happened to people over this last year that have been isolated, especially, our elderly, that haven't had human connection. And, when, and they've done studies in orphanages, especially, in Europe and Asia, that they don't have these babies grow up without human connection and human touch. And one of our good friends here in the group, you probably know her, Esther and Cherry Tree, that just had their baby, right? And he was early. Kai was early, and they had to keep him in the hospital in the incubator. And they took turns. There was all they went all either either one of them that were there the whole time, and he got out of the hospital early whenever all these other babies that were the same, they did it because they didn't, and the nurses were like, because he had the human touch, he had the human connection to you. And that's such a powerful thing that we in this space, we can't lose sight of that. I mean, this is such a, I mean, and you mentioned something, quality over quantity, the longevity. I mean, we can have a long life, but if the quality is not there, like, what's the point?
Absolutely. And it makes such, Harvard did a big study on this too, and they've done it over an 80-year period to show the impacts that you can make with all ages of people. But I mean, think about it. Connection is where we started.
Yeah.
Connection is like the essence of life, is when things come together like that. And I've done a lot of work on this, and one of the things that I've discovered is that I don't have to tell you when you're connected or not, because it's something that you feel.
Yes.
So your body tells you, just like that's a beautiful story about Sherry and Esther. I've known, actually, I took the bank system when they very, very first came out, when they very first launched in Las Vegas, the very first time. So I've known Sherry for a really long time, and she does wonderful, wonderful work. And what she's doing really is about connection as well, is teaching people the languages to be able to interpret where somebody is coming from, so that you can really find the place that you can really connect with them and speak to them in their language.
I love, this all ties back to, why God gave us one mouth and two ears, right? Because I think that sometimes we tend to not take the time to listen. We're so busy figuring out what we are going to say, or what, what great advice we may give or pour into, but we really don't take the moments to truly listen. And so I think that this is I will say this particular interview is really like I would say this is a vital signs checkup from the neck up, meaning, like, take the moments, take the time today and do your vital signs. Do your vital signs on your business. How are you connecting with your spouse? How are you not just how are you connecting with them, right? Are you really connecting with them? Are you in alignment? Because whenever you're in alignment, whenever two are aligned, anything can happen. How are you connecting with your children, your family, your mom, your dad, your team, your business? I mean, it's such a critical question to ask. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And one, I would really like to recognize you too, the relationship that you demonstrate in real life, right here live in front of all of us with your husband is so powerful. And it's, no, it really is. I'm not kidding. And it's like two freight trains going powerfully in the same direction, supporting each other. And that's a really good example. You know, I don't think you even realize that we watch you and we see how you interact with each other. And that's how people learn about these things. And they learn, okay, that's how they did that. That's how they worked through that. And so I can apply that. And that's one of the reasons, because we've learned so much from each other just from watching each other. And you mentioned listening before, and that's so important. And one of the things that you need to understand too is that when you listen, people have different love languages. One of the main things that I teach as a foundational question for people to ask in their business is, what does love look like for the person in front of you right now?
Yeah. I think this is such a valid question because, I mean, you know, it's everybody wants to be communicated with, everybody wants to be connected to in their own way. And selfishly, we want everybody to connect or communicate on our terms, on our turf, on our time, you know. And I think whenever we flip the switch, and you know, you said something that at the beginning of the interview, and Larry and I have always talked about it from the perspective of one finger pointing out. Whenever you serve or whenever you give or whenever you communicate, you know, you've got three coming back. So the power goes out, the finger goes out, but you've got three coming back. And whenever you look at what you're doing and how you're speaking into someone, that if you take that little extra time and speak to them in a language that they can receive, it goes to the next level of what you're actually communicating into a deeper level. I always think that, because that's one of the things that, you know, I do love about my husband, because he does speak to me in my love language. And you know, I have to do my checkup from the neck up in this arena all the time, you know, because I have the tendency to be a little selfish in this mode, and I have to check myself a lot. So ladies, if you're out there, like, do yourself a favor and do your little checkup from the neck up, or with your spouse, with your beloved, with your children. And are you speaking life, or are you speaking their love language that they can hear you?
Absolutely. And those appreciation styles are different for everyone.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, he hears appreciation different than you do. So you have to understand those things. Same thing is true for your people, your team. So if you know what makes them feel seen and appreciated, and you just keep track of that.
Yeah, that's so good. So Jill, so tell us about what are you doing? I mean, so outside of your businesses that you own, outside of you serving executives and helping build their culture, outside of you being an author of this book, like, don't you do like coaching and consulting? And how can these ladies connect with you, and how can you help them? Let's talk about that.
Well, I'm putting together an online course that's going to be launching in February. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it. It's called the Shine Principles.
Okay.
So there all of the things that you need to do to be able to be effective with other people and to be able to connect and build relationship. You know, I heard Brene Brown was talking to Eric Mosby, and he gave a bunch of really great statistics that if you appreciate someone 5 times a year in your organization, they don't want to leave. That's all it takes. And I'm like, 5 times? I want to do like 500 times. But that's how starving people are for
Yeah.
appreciation and recognition. So I talk about that. Honor in assume noble intent. Because, if you understand that people are doing the best they can, and you just cut them a little slack and assume that they didn't, maybe they said something a certain way, assume the best.
Yes.
And that's how you build relationship. When you start creating a story in your head about what they might have said, just like what you said earlier with your daughters and the text messages,
Yes.
they can start to create a whole different scenario that might not even be relevant.
This is such a great, listen, this right here, ladies, if you don't get anything out of what this interview, if just that takeaway alone, because whenever, like, we're in the people business, the best thing about our business is the people. The worst thing about our business is the people. So, I mean, you have to always give people the benefit of doubt. You can't go below that threshold. You can't go below that line, and always take it in the best possible way. And that really has to do with your thinking and the way you see you, because it's always the voice inside of our head that talks us out of believing the best in people that we do business with. And so you have to, I'm going to say it again, check up from the neck up. Come on, let's talk about it.
It's so true. And what you're seeing happen externally is just a reflection of what's happening internally.
Wow, that's so good.
So when you learn those, watch for those things and be like, oh, why am I seeing that? What's the gift in this? What can I learn from this piece?
And I think this is such a great, so many times people, they look at outside factors of their life changing instead of saying, okay, because instead of really looking inward of what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? Because, as Jim Rohn always taught us, for things to change, you've got to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. And we always want everybody else to get better. We're just not willing to do the work ourselves.
Isn't that the truth?
So, okay, well, because we're super excited. We want to hear about your course whenever you launch it. You'll have to come on and let us know whenever you launch it. And so it's something that we can, make sure that the ladies have access to here in the group. How can they get your book?
They can get my book by going to codesoflongevity.com.
Okay.
And they can just order it directly. And they can also, I put together kind of a starter kit to give them some foundational things about connection.
Okay.
And for your group, and I just called it theshinegift.com. And so they can go there and just get themselves some starter places so they can look at conversations and connect in more effective ways.
So it's called theshinegift.com.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make sure that we get this in the comments here. I'm going to the Shine Gift. I'm doing it myself. Gift.com. So as we close out, is there any last bit of wisdom that you would like to pour into the ladies today? Like some tips, mindset, obviously your book. What would you like the last words of wisdom that you would like to share with the ladies today?
Well, my last words, I guess, would be about honor. So remember to honor yourself, and remember to think about that, to honor the people around you in their unique ways, but always remember to honor yourself, because the more you do, the more that shows up in your life.
So powerful. So powerful. I love this because it really does tie into the conversations that I've had over the last couple of days with this, where I'm at this seminar. It's so good. Everything that you're saying is in total alignment as to some of the things, the conversations that have been had today. And I can't wait to, share some of those things, but it really does. There is no coincidence that we're here together talking about these things today. So honor yourself first, and then how you honor yourself will overflow into honor to other people and other relationships. So good.
Yeah, because they can't outlove you, right?
Yeah, that's so good.
So,
So, ladies, okay, well, first of all, Jill, let me thank you so much for taking time out, even though the snowy weather, and we handled the crazy Wi-Fi. We got that taken care of, but I really appreciate you taking out time to be here and to serve and give to the ladies your wisdom. And we can't wait to see your course and be able to share all of that with the ladies inside the group as well.
well, I am here to support your community and what you and your husband are doing anytime, because what you are doing is really giving people a foundation to change the world. And so I am at your service anytime.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. And I can't wait to share your course, and we will definitely be connected. I'm going to say bye to you privately, but ladies, that is it for us today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you tag one of your friends here that needs to hear this, such an inspirational message today. And so that's it for us today. I hope you have a blessed, amazing day. This is Taylor Thompson, Jill Wright signing off for the She Network. Bye, ladies.